Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back into the Dynasty Fantasy Football Fade the Field YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be going over more of the greatest fantasy football league in the earth, the Lakeview Fantasy Football League. And today, specifically, we're going to be targeting a mock draft based on our league, our picks, team needs, and values. To go over this, I've pulled the CBS Sports mock draft that was posted this morning on March 27th. And we'll be going through, looking at landing spots, grading where they land, and seeing what teams will take them. Let's dive into this draft. Kicking it off here with a 101, we do have Dog Pound Davis, and honestly, it does not matter what team you are. The 101 needs to be Ashton Genty. He is walking into the league as a top 5 dynasty running back that could be a pure game breaker just from his total production upside, and he is the consensus regardless of what format you're playing in. Looking here at the 102 and the 103 spot, we have J Nasty 12 holding both of those picks down, and taking a peek at his team, he really can take any flex position and best position available, so I am going to have him taking Omarion Hampton here at the 102. Hampton gets a perfect landing spot in this draft, going to the Broncos, who have a wide open running back room. He's going to walk in as a top 10 dynasty running back with NFL size, a total yak monster. He led the nation in yards after contact in college, and overall, he's probably the other prospect that's closest to Ashton Genty in this draft, as I view everyone else as in at least a tier below them. Finishing up the third pick for him, I actually have him going and getting a wide receiver now in Tet McMillan. A lot of people have been bored of Tet lately. He didn't run at the combine. Rumors are swirling of the actual 40 time he ran at his pro day. But I'm not giving up on Tet. I think he's still an excellent prospect and my wide receiver one in this class. He walks in with prototype X receiver size at 6'5". He has top tier skills of just going up to get the ball no matter where it's at. If he's running crossers, running a deep fade, he has the ability and just an unproven knack to go jump up, grab the ball from wherever it's at as long as it's in his catch radius. And he also gets secure draft capital here, going ninth overall to the Saints. He does have to deal with Olave there, but I don't think that's a huge concern for him. Moving on here to the fourth pick, we have A. Harris 22, who's also in a deep rebuilding state, and I actually have him going and getting Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State at this pick. Egbuka is my wide receiver 2 of this class, and I think he is going to be even better in leagues where it's a PPR format as opposed to a half PPR format like ours. He's just going to be a slot monster for everyone there. Think Cooper Kupp type of upside. In his landing spot here, going in the second round to the Jacksonville Jaguars, he doesn't have a route tree that really interferes with Brian Thomas Jr., so his target competition is not really existent. And he also, in my opinion, is the best route runner in the class. He's the most smooth, he's the most fluid, and it gets him open a ton of the time. Moving back here to J Nasty 12 with another set of back-to-back picks, I have him here taking the first Ohio State running back off the board in TreVeyon Henderson. Henderson's someone that can catch a lot of balls out of the backfield with a true three-down back upside. And he also has the elite agility and speed. His physicals match out very well. And these five, I believe, in this draft situation at least, are the first tier of players that really are setting themselves ahead of the rest. I said Genty and Hampton were in their own tier, just still true, but these three guys are also in a tier above everybody else in this draft. So if you can move into the top 5 of your rookie drafts, that is exactly what I'd recommend to do. It's much better than picking here at the 6, at the 7 even. So let's keep it moving and go on to that 6. At 6, I have him taking Matthew Golden, who in this draft is the second wide receiver drafted at 12th overall, and he does go to the Dallas Cowboys. This limits his ceiling due to CeeDee Lamb being there, but of course, you'd love to get Devonta Smith at the 106 of your rookie draft. You'd love to get T. Higgins there. So it's not a death sentence for a wide receiver to be the second option on that team. Golden has elite speed as a prospect, and he does have a quick burst as well. He gets open on a lot of routes in that, and overall his route running is also very top tier. It's not quite the tier of Egbuka, but it is very close to it. And I will say with Matthew Golden specifically, beware of the guys that are risers due to their 40 time. There's a lot of people that get into that and aren't able to actually use that speed in game due to a lack of something or another. But there's just too much writing on the wall to feel this as a slam dunk prospect to me. Looking at the 107 recently acquired by Cameron Gilbert, I have him going and grabbing Penn State tight end Tyler Warren. If Jacob, JNasty12, needed a tight end, I would have had him taking him over Travion Henderson, over Matthew Golden. But he has Bowers on his team, and I do believe he will draft for fit rather than trying to gain overall value. With Warren, he is someone that truthfully could be a game breaker of fantasy football. And when you think about guys like that, they're very few and far between. Think of Josh Allen last year was really a game breaker. Lamar in his 1,000-yard rushing year. Tyreek in a couple of the years with the Chiefs. Warren, I think, is somebody that you could line up almost anywhere in your offense. Give him touches, he would produce. He has pro-ready size, he has great ball skills, and he's also extremely athletic. And he was used in a diverse way in college, which gives me the hope that he could also do that in the pros as well. Moving on here to Jay Nasty's 5th pick of the first round. I actually have him going down deep to go get Dylan Sampson in this draft, who goes 66th overall to the Chiefs in a backfield that really is wide open. Sampson had crazy college production at Tennessee, which SEC school, if you take that for what it is, it's one of the best groups of talent in college football. He forces a ton of missed tackles as well, giving an elusiveness rating that's higher than most of his peers. But he did struggle with fumbles a little bit in his college season. And if a running back that's a rookie with third-round capital comes in and starts fumbling, costing your team turnovers, it's really hard for them to climb their way back up the mountain to get more consistent touches and the ability to have those touches long-term. Moving here to the 109, I have Sean, a team that's perpetually been in need of running backs, trying to secure one here in Quinshon Judkins. Judkins is a crazy physical runner. I don't think I can quite give him the muscle hamster status of Doug Martin, but he is very close to that. And he's a total brute at the goal line. He's someone that you wouldn't be shocked to see 8, 9, 10 touchdowns a year out of him, especially in the landing spot of the Raiders, where Raheem Mostert's their other guy. Mostert's at the point where he's going to be scraping by to get 6 carries a game, 7 carries a game, and Judkins really would be the dominator in that backfield almost from day one. Judkins, however, is not quite as elusive as some of his peers in the draft. He's more of a run downhill, get through someone. So that might limit his upside at the start of his career, but I think that's something that he can develop over time, and if not, he's still a touchdown monster and carry monster as well. Moving on here to the 110, we see Sacks Money taking Luther Burden. Burden is a player that a lot of people are high on, but I will openly say I am the lowest on Luther Burden out of any rookie in this class compared to the consensus. I've watched a ton of film of his from both this year where he disappointed in college and last year where he was a superstar. And I do not see the it factor or the yak potential that everyone else does. Now, I could be wrong. I'm often wrong. If he does end up showing through that potential, he would be an excellent yak player. And you could think of usage like Debo after the catch, not necessarily as many of the backfield handoff options, but jet sweep options certainly would be open as well. If he does get the first round capital, however, I do think I would be bumping him ahead of Golden into this 106 spot, which all of a sudden doesn't look as bad compared to consensus, but you have to compare the hit rates of round 1 wide receivers to round 2 wide receivers. In order to be considered a hit in my book, you have to be a top 24 player in any season. And the hit rate for round 1 wide receivers on that is 53% compared to round 2 wide receivers being 32%. So taking a 20% difference to move them up a bunch and bet on that talent, I'm all ears for that option. Moving on here to the 111, I have, again, no surprise here, Jay Nasty. I have him going with Trey Harris out of Ole Miss with this pick. Harris is someone that will get buzzworded a lot towards DK Metcalf, George Pickens, some of those guys that are just monstrous, deep ball, huge size runners. I don't think he really falls into that. But he does, of course, have that deep threat, which gives him the comp. He's an older prospect. He still needs some development on his actual route running and ability to get to spots to give him contested catches. And the downside, he's also not a high PPR or yak guy, and especially with his landing spot here in Seattle, Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to take up a ton of targets in that offense. The second pick of his third stretch of back-to-backs, I have Jay Nasty going with Damian Martinez, the running back out of Miami. Martinez is someone that I believe has 3-down potential, but not necessarily in the stance of you can throw the ball a lot out of the backfield to him, more in the stance of he plays great pass protection when he's not running routes. He also has quality size, and he uses that size very well. He has great contact balance. He knows how to be an open runner and find room with patience and vision as well. He could be taken off the field, however, in the 4 or 2-minute drill situations, like I alluded to earlier, with a lack of receiving upside, so that may limit some of his overall ceiling as a fantasy player. Now, on to 113, I'm just going to touch on it very quickly. This is a pick that does not exist. It is fully voided due to violation of LFFL rules. But, on to 114, I have RK Boomer taking Jaden Higgins here. Jaden Higgins is a guy going to the Chargers who gets boosted up a bunch by his landing spot, and he did have the top PFF receiving grade in college football this season, so that shows that his production's already there. He has decent route running as well, and in my brain, he is the perfect mid-range possession wide receiver. Think of a Nico Collins type of ceiling for him, but I don't think he has much upside to turn into a full-on PPR target machine or a deep threat asset either. Moving back to the 201 up to Sean Lindsay again, I have him taking Caleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa here. Johnson in this situation ends up going to the Texans, which is why he's pushed down the board a little bit here, along with third-round draft capital there. He would be sitting behind Mixon for a year, maybe 2 years, depending on how the Texans view their future. But as a prospect, he's a home run hitting running back. He has great on-field speed, especially for his size. At 224 pounds, it's rare to see someone with the ability to move like him. He's not elusive, however, but with his speed and power and size all combining, he doesn't really need to be that elusive back. He's, again, not quite the physicality of Judkins, but somewhat along that same line, where they're going to be able to run through you rather than trying to run around you. Moving on to the 202 here with A. Harris 22, we have Elijah Arroyo, tight end out of Miami, getting drafted. In this draft, he also goes to the Seahawks in the second round, and that room is starting to look a little bit crowded, but I wanted to look at the prospects individually rather than the result of both Trey Harris and Elijah Arroyo going to the Seahawks in this draft. Arroyo has exceptional movement. He's great after the catch, and he's also great getting to the point of the catch. He's someone that just looks fluid as a route runner, looks really fluid after the catch as well. He's built with tight end size to go along with all of those nice movement traits, and he also has natural speed as well in game. He did have a late breakout, however, and it's hard to keep him in a pass protection set when you're on offense due to just being a pure liability at Miami last year. Moving on to the 203, we are going to see our first quarterback go off the board in Cam Ward to D. Boomer. His quarterback room is a little bit shaky, which is why he would want to go onto this pick. If Kyler doesn't show he still has it, maybe they're trying to move on from him, see a different future. But Ward, his peak throws are really among some of the best. I'm not trying to fall for the pro day hype of the Zach Wilson effect, if you want to call it that, where he makes an excellent throw in his pro day and all of a sudden his stock rises 10%. But overall, just when I personally am looking at quarterbacks, I am not a better scout of talent at the quarterback position than the NFL scouts that get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to do their job. If Ward goes at the 101, I believe he is the quarterback that should be taken first. If Shedeur Sanders, who we'll touch on later, went to the 101, that's who I would believe should go here as well. Moving on to the 204, back to A. Harris 22, we have him taking a shot on Travis Hunter. Now, Harris is in a very rough situation from value standpoint. He's been working real hard to get himself out of it, but hasn't made much progress yet. It's off season. It's a little slow. And Hunter is just a pure fantasy football lottery ticket. We're talking if you forget the fact that he played corner and plays defense at such a high level, Hunter and McMillan are the wide receiver ones of this class, and honestly, Hunter would be going right here after Hampton. But with the question marks and the NFL scouts saying he's most likely to play corner, you have no idea what to predict with his upside. But if he did play receiver, you're looking at a contested catch monster that can come down with a lot of touchdowns for you, can play out of almost any position on the wide receiver group, and will get a ton of targets and volume as well. Moving on to the 205, we have Colston Loveland, the Michigan tight end, going here to D Boomer, giving him a more sure future at the tight end room with Evan Ingram being on the decline. Loveland is a great athlete in route running, and he also fills out the physicals with his size and his speed, agility. And truthfully, he reminds me a little bit, not a ton, just a little bit of a David Njoku, a Darren Waller almost. As someone that's a wide receiver who just happens to put his hand in the dirt and line up at tight end. He also has the same struggles as Arroyo, however. He's really hard to keep on the field as a blocker. And with Loveland going here, this tier of three folks here is just pure potential. These guys have all the upside in the world. Cam Ward going to a tough situation there in Tennessee. Travis Hunter being just a total question mark in terms of dynasty. And Colston Loveland going to the Colts in such a rough passing offense situation there. If you want to bet on their talent and you have them above guys I've already taken, I completely respect and understand that idea. I am not willing to take those shots on the talent outplaying the situation because we've seen many times that the situation truthfully cannot be overcame. Moving on here to 4th and 20 and his team, we are going to be taking Mason Taylor for him, another tight end in the second round here. Taylor is someone that had great hands in college. He had NFL size and athletic standards across vertical, strength, speed, quickness. But it's really hard for me to see a full ceiling outcome for Taylor. It feels like he's a very finished prospect, and what you see is what you're going to get out of him. Moving on here to the 207, I have Savion Williams going here. In this draft, Williams would have been a lot higher with second round draft capital, but he's going to the Detroit Lions, and they feel like a team that does not have any spots of the offensive field that are missing. Savion almost feels like a luxury pick that they don't need to make. And if there's anybody that could screw up a second round pick, I know it is the Detroit Lions. But if he comes in and turns into more of a Jameson Williams replacement in terms of volume and role, he doesn't necessarily have a ton of holes in his game, but he also doesn't have a lot of top tier abilities and talent. He could play a Swiss Army knife, somewhat again of a Debo, someone that's taking those jet sweeps now, without the speed of Jameson Williams. But I don't think he has the real potential to get up to those Debo Samuel conversations that you often hear Swiss Army knife talked about. Moving on to the 208, I have A. Harris taking Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green. This is, again, someone that's taking a ton of shots on potential and upside, and Fannin has that. He was an elite producer in college at Bowling Green, but that also is used as a little bit of a drawback on him because it's a small school, and you never know if that talent he's playing there could even give you a smell of the NFL talent that he will face. He also does have the great route running and hands. He doesn't struggle in the blocking game like the other tight ends in the second round that we've talked about. And his upside, especially in this Eagles offense, to just be a pure plug-and-play Dallas Goedert replacement, he is one of the guys that you could see the earliest value jumps with if he starts to succeed early in the Eagles offense. Here at the 209, I have 4th and 20 taking a shot on a player that I can only describe as a Timmy pick. That is exactly what Tez Johnson is. He has all the flashy traits of being, he's loud, he's fast, He makes great plays on tape, but I'm not willing to bet against his size pushing him away from NFL skill. Tank Dell is someone that's 20 pounds heavier than Tez Johnson, and Tank is someone that we were so concerned about his size and that he would never produce, and then he's still now, that size may be coming back to bite him a little bit with some of the injury history, things like that. But positives on Tez, he is a burner. He will destroy almost any man coverage you put him in, no matter how good the corner is. If they cannot keep up with him, they cannot guard Tez Johnson. Moving on here to the 210, I am going to be going with Kyle Williams, who ends up going to the 49ers in this draft. The 49ers landing spot is a good situation for him. I'm not necessarily sure he could push himself into the wide receiver 2 immediately, but with the lack of skill that Pearsall showed, with Juwan Jennings being pushed out a little bit, it seems, by the lack of contract safety for him, Kyle Williams could come in and be a not quite instant producer, but someone that's trying to fight for that spot. He has huge yak upside, and he does have a lot of current talent to be able to fight for that spot. I'm not necessarily sure that he has any other talents that are more than good outside of his yak. And he's just not a sharp route runner. That's one of his skills that's below average, in my opinion. Moving on to the 211, 212, we have Sacks Money here going back to back. First off, I have him taking Jack Besh. Besh is certainly an older prospect that had a very late breakout, but he still has top-tier hands, and in this situation, he's going to the Patriots. Despite them still signing Stephon Diggs recently, I think that wide receiver room has so much upside between the total ability of targets just purely open and Drake May's skill as a quarterback as well. Beck has top-tier hands. He does have a limited ceiling as a prospect, but if you're trying to buy to sell here with Jack Beck, you could look to see his early production this year, which should be happening due to his refinery as a player and prospect to be able to put up decent numbers to start. You could be able to draft him and sell him a few weeks later at an up-tiered price because of production. Moving on to his second round pick here. I'm going back to the tight end well, and we are grabbing Terrence Ferguson here for him. He needs as much value as he can get everywhere, but getting a guy, taking a shot on a tight end here in the second round, that was honestly the best athlete at the tight end spot in the class, even including Warren, including Loveland. Nobody athletically was better than Terrence Ferguson. He did also have a pretty great combine for his size and just position at tight end. Their numbers never necessarily flash at you because they aren't hitting the 4.4s, low 4.3s like the wide receivers are, or running backs even, but you got to take it as it is. He did struggle in college at getting open and really finishing those catches. So if he can work and refine himself as a route runner and fix up his hands a little bit, he's someone that really could be a dominant force at the tight end spot. Looking here at the 213, we do have a prospect in Jalen Royals that I believe should have went much earlier in this mock draft, but he ended up going 72nd overall to the Bears. And despite him as a prospect being the biggest range of outcomes where you could really hit a home run or he could be droppable by week 5, Jalen Royals, stuck behind Rome Odunze and DJ Moore, is just not a situation where he can truthfully flourish. He has great yak ability, and almost all of his other skills are above average, but I, again, cannot put Royals ahead of the poor situation he's in the Chicago offense, with all the targets already being clogged up by DJ Moore, Rome Odunze. I mean, even Cole Kmet is going to get a good amount of work. He also was injured in a weak conference, so it could be a little bit tough for him to make that jump to the NFL level, similar to the same thing with Harold Fannin Jr. Looking at our last pick here in the second round, we have Nate Dude, and he purely is drafting for fit here. I know how most of these guys draft, and he will be taking Shedeur Sanders, but let's get it out of the way. He has the arm strength of a pumpkin here. That guy is incredibly accurate, but he is not launching deep balls like almost any other QB in the league currently. And on top of that, he really doesn't have much rushing ability. But if he can prove us wrong on the deep ball, on that rushing, just on his overall traits as a quarterback, he's going to be a smash hit value win for Nate Dude here at the last pick of the second round. Alright guys, I think that will finish up our mock draft video today. Let me know down in the comments if there's any prospects you guys are excited on, if you agree or disagree. Make sure to like, subscribe, and keep coming back for the LFFL content and more standard fantasy content coming soon. Peace.